We're back to looking at AWS Lambda. What is AWS Lambda? AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service that lets you run your code without provisioning or managing servers. You simply upload your code and Lambda automatically handles everything needed to run and scale it with high availability. So the concept around Lambda is a serverless service. There's no need to manage servers, infrastructure, or scaling. So what we mean here is, unlike when you deploy your S3 buckets or you deploy your EC2 instances, you need to set up your service, your AMI, which is your operating system, and whatever image or boot time installation that needs to run with it. But in terms of Lambda, what this means is you don't need to worry about infrastructure or scaling. All you need to do is write your code, upload your code, and AWS would execute this code with the right resources. If there are so many requests coming on the code, it scales the resources to be able to handle it. Now it's event driven. Your code runs in response to triggers such as HTTP request or S3 buckets event or Dynamo event. So what this means is when you have your code uploaded, there has to be an event that would run it. So it could either be that you have configured a trigger, an API trigger, such that when you call that URL, that API, the function executes, or you create a trigger where an S3 bucket triggers when a file is uploaded to S3 bucket. The event can be triggered. It could be a DynamoDB event that triggers this function. You write your code as small single purpose function. So usually it's not like you're uploading a folder of functions. It could just be a Python function or a JavaScript function, as the case may be. Now you pay per use, so you are only charged when this function is being called. You won't be charged for any resource. You won't be charged if there are no calls to the function for any reason. So you can create a Lambda function, and this Lambda function doesn't execute until you've created a trigger. So how does it work? Well, you create a Lambda function by uploading your code or write in its console. So the AWS Lambda environment has a code console where you can type your code. You set your trigger, so you could choose a service that would invoke this function, which I had mentioned earlier. It could be an API gateway or an S3 bucket event. Now Lambda runs your code when it's triggered and automatically scales based on the number of calls. So if 1 million people are calling this function at the same time, all that just happened is AWS manages the request, and you'll be charged based on the number of requests that's been made on this function. You can use AWS CloudWatch to monitor and track performance of this function. So this image just clearly explains how this works. And you've written a Lambda function such that it's triggered when a file is uploaded into the S3 bucket. The function runs, and you're charged based on the compute time of the function. So we'll be looking at a simple example. You can automatically resize images when uploaded to S3 bucket. So you can write a function that resizes images and maybe upload the images to another S3 bucket folder. You can build different type of real-time file processing applications. So backend task for mobile and web apps, trigger workflows in response to maybe a database update. You can write a trigger such that once a particular type of update is made to a database, the Lambda function is called to execute the trigger. So usually there's a simple workflow. You create a trigger, the Lambda function runs. You can also say what happens when the Lambda function has executed. Should it also now probably set a destination where you can create an SNS service to send a notification to a particular email when a particular type of Lambda function has been executed. So these are important terms when it comes to Lambda. When you hear runtime, it's the programming language environment. Trigger an AWS service or event that starts when that starts your Lambda function. Code starts. This is a small delay when a Lambda function is invoked for the first time. timeout, maximum allowed running time for a function. So you could also set a timeout to your Lambda function. This is just to manage your compute time and not to have an endless running of a Lambda function that should at least to have terminated within a certain period of time. So Lambda allows you to build highly scalable, low cost and efficient application without worrying about the infrastructure. So in this hands-on, you can find the entire course material if you visit luabikoye.com/aws.pdf, and you can also follow the exercises, because of the codes that will be required throughout this course. You can find it on github.com/luabikoye/aws. However, in this hands-on, what we'll be doing is to create a Lambda function that would be triggered when a file is uploaded into an S3 bucket, and the Lambda function would be a script that would definitely send an email to an email address informing them that a file has been uploaded. So what do we need to get this done? We need an S3 bucket. We need a verified email account in Amazon SES. So SES is Amazon Simple Email Service. I won't be diving deep there, but you need an email address that would have been verified by Amazon so that we can go through this exercise. Then you need an IAM role with these permissions, such that you'll be able to trigger. You would have access to the relevant resources when this Lambda function is being triggered. Alright, so to be able to pull through this exercise, I would have to create an S3 bucket. So you go to S3 and you create bucket. I'll be creating a bucket called Lu AWS Buck BUCK. I'll just create an empty bucket. I'll just create a bucket rather. And here I'll go to SES. Now SES is for us to create a verified email address that we can use to test this process. That would also serve as a medium to inform AWS that you'll be running email services in a particular function. Alright, so what you just need to do here is to set up an email. So if you're here for the first time, it will just take you straight to where you can verify your email or an identity, or you click on identities and you come to create an identity. In this case, I want to create an email that I need to verify. So I'll enter the email domains at aledoy.com. In this case, I just create the identity. You'll get a notification to confirm that you're the owner of the email, so you have to verify that email, and that's it. So I am back to creating my Lambda function, but before then I go to create a role. Now this is the role. You have to set permissions that your Lambda function would use. Just come to roles. So I'll create a new role. I'll leave it as, since this role will be working with services, I'll select the use case. In this situation it's Lambda. I go next. So I'll attach the policies that I want to use. In this case, I'll be attaching 3 policies. The first one is Amazon S3 read. So we'll be adding the Amazon S3 read only. We'll also be adding the SES full access, and the last rule I'll be adding here is the Lambda execution, Lambda full execution, and the Lambda basic execution. Yeah, this one. Now, having added the three policies, I'll give this a name. I can just call it Lambda S3 email row. Okay, so I guess this already exists, so I just add U. So once I create this row, yeah, I have everything ready to create my Lambda function. Now the next thing is to go to Lambda. So here I get started by creating a function. What's the name of the function? I just say upload S3 function. I choose the programming language. In this case, I'll be using Python 3.9, and I change the default execution rule. So I have to select that rule that I had just created, which is this one, and I create function. Alright, so I go to my repo, that's github.com/aws/luabikoe/aws, and I choose the Lambda. So I just need to copy the Lambda code that I have here. So I just copy this code, come back to my Lambda. So here you have your source code where you can actually replicate whatever code you have written outside of your Lambda, or you just come here and type the code as it is, and the next line of action is to just deploy. Okay, so I need to make a setting change. So the sender email has to be an email that I had set in my SES. This is just to be sure that we can test this Lambda function. Okay, so I paste the function, then I decide to add a trigger. So what is my trigger? I'm using S3, meaning that I want S3 bucket to trigger that Lambda function. And the event type, I choose put. So put is an event that will be called when a file is being uploaded into the S3 bucket. I acknowledge this and I add. So I have successfully created a Lambda function with a trigger from the S3 bucket. So one more thing, if I want a situation where as soon as the S3 bucket has successfully as soon as the Lambda function has completed its execution, I might say that it should probably send a notification, or just push it to a destination. It could be that after a particular Lambda function has executed, it should call another Lambda function, which in this case I would have set this destination as it is. But for the purpose of this class, we're just stopping at creating a trigger that would call the Lambda function. Another thing we can do is to say I can create another trigger, which I can say this time this trigger is an API gateway. I'm trying to say that I want to create a new API, and it will be such that this API could be open, and just to see every other setting. So the purpose of having this API is to generate, AWS to generate an API for me that I can call from any of my application, which would also trigger this function. So let's see this work. I'll just pull up my email address down here. So this is my email box where I'm expecting the email. If I go to my S3, now I'm going straight into the bucket Lua AWS buck, and I upload a file. So I just search for any file within my system, selected a file, and I upload. Now once that file has been uploaded, the expectation is it will trigger the Lambda function, which I expect to receive an email once that Lambda function completes the circle. So now this is the email that just dropped, and you can see new file uploaded to S3. The name of the file was uploaded to buckets, what have you. So coming back to my Lambda function, you see clearly that that was the code that was written in the function. For those that are familiar with Python, I'm sure understanding what this code is would be pretty straightforward. So we have defined the subject of the mail, the body of the mail, and that is what we have just received. So that's one way of calling the Lambda function. The other way of calling the Lambda function is to come to the API that was generated by AWS. So if I have a script or another app that needs to call that function, I can just as well call this API from anywhere, and the same action would be executed. So why this is giving an error is because the particular code requires that a file is uploaded in an S3 bucket and the rest. But this is just to give you an idea of how to call the function using other medium like API gateway. So that's it. I believe you can try this following the slides and watch the video again, and I'm sure you'd find it easy to run through this. Thank you once again. I'll see you in the next video.